Let's go to engineering, Clara. Just for a little while. No one will know. It'll be our secret. And if they find us, we'll tell them we got lost.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Fully Functional, a TNG podcast. I'm Maggie, joined by Jeff and Dory.
Yo.
Jeff and I are veteran Trekkies, and Dory is a rookie Trekkie, and we are taking her on her first journey through Star Trek: The Next Generation. Today we're discussing the Season 5 episode, Imaginary Friend. Original air date, May 2nd, 1992. And as always, we'll take it to Dory for the recap.
Okay, so we start off, Troi is talking to a child. Her name is Clara, and Clara Sutter, and she, Clara seems like a nice kid, but this made me question her judgment for just immediately. She said she likes to cook yogurt and raisin salad, and I was like, I don't want any further explanation. I'm just disappointed.
Also, she likes to put grape juice in her eggs.
Yes. She also says she cooks chocolate chip pancakes. That's fine. And purple omelets, which is, grape juice and eggs. And I worry about Clara.
Yeah.
She's a nice kid. I worry about her.
Yeah, even before all this stuff in the episode goes down.
Yeah, holy shit. This kid needs all the therapy.
You know what worries me about that, actually? Thinking about how diluted the color of grape juice is and exactly how much of it you would need to put into your eggs before they became purple.
Listen, she's probably using the replicator. She's got all the grape juice in the
That's
world.
fair, yes.
Yeah.
They use concentrate.
All right, so she... Okay, so Clara tells Troi about her imaginary friend, Isabella. Mm-hmm. And Troi is yes-anding the absolute crap out of this kid. She is just like, yep. Oh, wow. Is Isabella like this? Whatever. So Isabella is described as having blonde hair in a blue dress with white buttons. She has her ears pierced and she's tall. And Troy's like, hey, can you draw me a picture? And Clara's like, you don't think she's real? And Troy's like, I think she's real for you. And that is real enough for me. And also, up until this point, we do not know this child's name, so I just kept writing TBD for this child's name. And then she's like, sorry, Troi, gotta go. She's got to help Kiko in the Arboretum. So then we meet her dad, Ensign Sutter, and he explains, so, like, they have moved from Starship to Starship for, like, ever. And so maybe Isabella is... she's an imaginary friend, but she like provides a consistent companion because Clara like leaves so quickly on all these different starships, so she doesn't get to make like long-lasting friendships. Mm-hmm. And Troy's like, oh, don't worry about this. Like, as soon as Clara starts to make friends on the Enterprise, like she'll ditch Isabella so fucking fast.
I would like to have a background discussion about her dad after we're done the recap, but continue.
Oh, okay. So the Enterprise is arriving at FGC-47, a nebula which has formed around a neutron star. They are investigating the unique formation, and just like, they gonna go fully in? I don't know. Have they like learned nothing? Like, guys, stop. Like, wait on the outside. You can like look at it.
Yeah, like maybe just send in a probe first.
Yeah. And then I wrote, oh, great, here comes Tinkerbell. Because this, like, little glowing, like, dot flies around. Because we don't get enough glowing entities.
Yeah, how many have we had
show.
so far? Is this, like, the 5th or 6th one? They just kind of glow their way into the ship?
Yep. Okay, so Geordi and Data are doing a walk and talk about something. I don't care. And
yeah, they really, like, they really pack in the technobabble into this conversation.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not writing it down. I don't care. Listen, I know my priorities, and it's not whatever they're talking about. And so, and then meanwhile, like, Tinkerbell kind of like hangs out, trails them behind them, and then pops into like Dr. C, who's talking to a nurse who like went on a date with someone, and they're like now talking about vacations, but Ryza is too much for her. I was like, what is happening? Like, good for this lady, I guess. Mm-hmm. What? This is just such a wild side note of a thing, but maybe it's to remind us there's other people on board.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Nurse Ogawa is one of those like reoccurring characters that they give you a little bit about, and occasionally she gets a little bit more focus, and usually not.
Yeah. She never like becomes a full character, but she's one of those people that's just kind of around.
She's a backgrounder with a couple of lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or a bystander.
I do like that Dr. Crusher is like, encouraging her to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's encouraging her to get laid.
Dr. C is nothing if not supportive. Okay, so we see Clara in the Arboretum. She's watering plants, humming Old MacDonald, as one does. Mm-hmm. And
look, kids know like three songs.
As one who is constrained by copyright does.
Yep.
Yes.
Of course. Listen, at least it's not for Shaka.
Yeah.
Hey, it's your birthday. For He's a Jolly Good Fellow, everyone.
Yeah.
Because like if she was like humming for Jaka, I'd be like, I'm sorry, do they teach these children one song on this ship and that's it?
Yep.
So
Picard's orders.
Yeah. So then she's like humming, and then another voice starts to like join the humming, and no, there's no one around, and it's very creepy. And then we see it is revealed that a child is standing there, and she's like, "Hey, it's me, Isabella." And I was like, "Oh no, that's a ghost.
Yeah.
That is
She's got, like, the
a
deadest eyes.
haunted." Honestly, this kid was incredible.
Yeah.
The
She
kid
did a
who plays
fantastic
Isabella
job.
was the creepiest little monster I have ever. This kid was amazing, truly like menacing, terrifying. I was like, children are scary enough, but this child,
Yeah.
ugh. So okay, yeah. Even Clara, when she sees her, is like, "What the fuck are you doing here?"
Yeah.
Even I know you're not real.
Yeah.
I actually often get this episode mixed up with another episode that has an actress who eventually becomes a famous actress, but she's playing a child in it, and it's just because other than this kid, the episode doesn't leave a lot of impression on me.
Yeah. Although, like, spoiler alert, this episode was better than I remember it being.
Yeah,
it's
fine.
not bad. It was like legit scary.
Yeah.
I was like actually concerned.
It's just very weird that this is an episode of Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yeah, this episode was wild. So, okay, I wrote in my notes, Isabella is 100% going to murder Clara. Because here's the thing. From the second I saw this child, I was like, this reminds me of an episode of Supernatural.
Yeah.
Hear me out. It's either in season 1 or 2, I don't remember. But, like, the brothers go to, like, it's supposed to be like an old-timey haunted house. And there's a little girl, and, like, turns out the ghost, like, her friend is this blonde-haired kid with, like, curly blonde hair, and she's dressed in, like, kind of a schoolgirl outfit. And I was like, this is Isabella. Did the people who like made this episode fully just watch this episode, like who made the episode of Supernatural watch this episode of Star Trek and was like, ooh, have we got some ideas?
I mean, they legit might have done that.
Yeah.
The
because
people who made Supernatural are huge dorks.
Yeah. And so in the Supernatural episode, the blonde kid turns out to be the ghost of the little girl's grandmother, or no, her grandmother's sister who was like killed or something. And because like you have a brown-haired girl who's like the like real one, and then like the curly-haired blonde child who's like terrifying. So I was like, wait a minute. Isabella, because in the Supernatural episode, the blonde child tries to then murder the like other little girl, so she's like, you can stay with me forever and like haunt the house with me. Like, that's not fucked at all, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Her grandmother saves the day by dying so she could be like live with the haunted little dead girl. I don't know, it's creepy. This is also creepy. Okay,
so
anyways.
the little bit of a background interjection, actually, this episode went through a lot of people before it got to Berman and Braga's desk to figure out what the hell to do with it, because they liked the premise, but every time that that one of their people tried to handle it, they just did not like the results at all. And it was Brandon Braga's decision to go with like the kid is a bit menacing angle for it, because the other ones the other ones kind of portrayed the kid as like a innocent Puff the Magic Dragon kind of figure. That's like just like being kind of playful and friendly, and they didn't feel that really had much fun to it. So
yeah, that doesn't provide any interest. There's no tension there.
No, so they dropped that premise, and Braga introduced the giving her a bit of malevolence, and I think that was a good idea.
If you haven't watched the episode, Isabella has the same vibe as like the twins from The Shining.
Yes.
Like, very cold and, like, emotionless and that sort of thing.
Come and play with me forever and ever.
I mean, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so then, we get to see Guinan again. We haven't seen for 1,000 years.
Oh, yeah, actually, mild interjection about that. She was not supposed to be in this episode. She was like a last-minute decision, and it turned out that she was available, and they were like, great, let's write a scene for her, because we'd love having her on the show. And we're like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so in my notes, because I assumed Isabella was a ghost, I wrote, did they get Whoopi for this episode because she was in Ghost?
Nice.
But,
had you not connected that the Tinkerbell was Isabella?
Oh, no, I know that.
Oh,
but
okay.
But I just was like so spooked by this child. She just like, I just kept thinking Ghost. I know that was Tinkerbell was Isabella, but like, she just looks so much like a creepy child.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she may as well been of Ghost.
Yeah. Okay, so then Isabella is like, hey, let's ditch your commitments and explore the ship. Also, don't tell your dad.
Yeah.
And Clara's like, yeah, listen, works for me. So, okay, Data and Geordi are in engineering, and, her dad, Ensign Sutter, he's in engineering too. Yeah. And they're like, what do we name the nebula? And Geordi's like, the LaForge Nebula. And then he's like, Sutter's Cloud. And Data's like, I like FGC 47. And like, you guys, okay. I feel like there's other shit to do, but listen.
They're just having fun while they're working.
Do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
So, okay, so then the shields show that there's an impact, but they don't see anything. So, like, did they hit something? Shields say yes, sensors say no. So Clara visits engineering, and they're like, hey, can you, like, get lost? Girl, you're not supposed to be here. So something is, like, dragging the Enterprise or whatever. And, wow, I really wrote some shit out of order. Okay, anyways, so Clara says to Isabella, she's like, why? Oh, because Clara, she gets kicked out of engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, why do you keep because she's like, me and Isabella wanted to, like, come here. And they're like, no, Clara, get the fuck out. And she's like, Isabella, why do you keep disappearing like that? And I just wrote, girl, Isabella is a ghost. And, because, like, Isabella disappears when, like, adults are around, basically. I was like, okay, all right. And, so, like, the ship problem fixed itself, apparently. Doesn't matter. Okay, so now there's a group meeting.
Isabella fixed it. She, like, gets Claire into the hallway, and she's like, wait here for a second, I have to do something. Then she Tinkerbell's away. The thing gets fixed, and then she comes back and is like, okay, cool, I had to do something, but now I'm back.
Yeah. Okay, so then there's a meeting, and it's Picard, Riker, Geordi, and Data, and they're like, yeah, we don't know what happened or how it was fixed. Super, super weird. But Geordi's like, let's get some samples of the gas. And we're like, okay, sure, Geordi. And then Isabella is like, hey, let's go somewhere with a lot of people. And I was like, wow, that's creepy.
Mm-hmm.
I just, like, this child was just so creepy. Okay, and then... oh my god, okay, so Clara's like, why do you never, like, look happy? Why do you always, like, look like such a bummer? Like, you never smile. And Isabella's like, I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
And Clara's like, can you just, like, smile? And then Isabella tries to smile, and I was like, great. So now I know what's replaced my nightmares from the Pinhead from last episode, or a couple episodes ago. It's Isabella smiling. I hate it. And then Isabella's like, oh, Clara, you're such a fucking bummer. And you can't make friends because you, like, don't have enough time anywhere or whatever. And then out of nowhere, they're like, oh, Clara's like, oh, I'll race you. And then they start running in the hall and they run into Worf. And I'm like, race where? You guys didn't even make any rules. Like, what is the end point? How do you know when the race is done? Like,
Yeah.
these kids are so unorganized.
Especially since, like, if you think about it, like, in the reality of the show, like, that hallway's probably just one big circle, like, around the deck.
Yeah. So, like, what was the end game here? Just, like, keep going? They just happen to run smack dab into Worf. And, Worf's like, you guys aren't supposed to be here, but listen, it's cool, but get the fuck out, and I won't say anything. So I just wrote, Isabella is a bad influence. Because he's like, go back to your quarters. They do not go back to Clara's quarters.
No.
And then we learn that Geordi's parents were both in Starfleet.
Mm-hmm.
His dad was an exozoologist, and his mom was a command officer. Because, like, she's talking... Who's he talking with?
Her dad, Claire's
dad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's
And
like, he's trying to figure out, like, what it was like from the child's perspective of, like, having
having to, like, move a lot. And yeah, because Geordi's like, oh yeah, I, like, sometimes my parents worked in the same place, sometimes they didn't, so Geordi got kind of, like, bounced around all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like, yeah, I kind of pictured it as, like, one long adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, Ensign Sutter's like, okay, yeah, works for me.
I mean,
but instead of an adventure, Clara's going through trauma.
Yeah. I think it depends on the kid, honestly, because I don't fully agree with Geordi here.
Yeah.
Like, that was his experience, and that's great that, like, he didn't really have a problem with it. But, like, I feel like that's a very specific type of person. And I feel like a lot of kids would, like, be like, this is a bummer to have to move all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we get to see Guinan. She's in a red outfit. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And she's talking with Data about what the gas looks like, and Data's like, it is interesting that people try to find meaningful patterns in things that are essentially random. I have noticed that the images they perceive sometimes suggest what they are thinking about at that particular moment. Besides, it is clearly a bunny rabbit. Like, okay.
Yeah, because
so
Guinan was like, it's a sailing ship or some whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Clara enters 10 forward, and Guinan's like, what the fuck are you doing here?
Yeah.
But, you can, like, you're not supposed to be here, but, you can be my guest for now. And Guinan's like, listen, adults are, like, too busy to see things that aren't real, but, you know, she had an imaginary friend, which was a Tarkesian razor beast.
Mm-hmm.
And, okay, this might just be, okay, I don't think I understand how imaginary friends work. I did not have one. And maybe this is something for, like, after the recap, but I'm confused on how imaginary friends, not the logistics, but I guess kind of the logistics. Okay.
I also don't know, and I will get into that after the recap.
Okay, yeah. So, because Clara, like, knows that Isabella isn't real, and so is like, then who does she think, like, then why does she think people should treat Isabella like she's real? So I'm like, Clara, you're not, the logic is not logicking.
The
girl.
kid is a little more self-aware than a child that age should be.
Yeah. Okay, so Guinan's favorite part with her imaginary friend was falling asleep on a hairy belly and listening to it purr. Like, okay, to each their own. Okay, so now Troi asks if Clara and Isabella would like to go on a walk, and Troy's like, listen, you can't go into 10 forward, and even if Isabella is telling you to do things that are wrong, you gotta tell her it's unacceptable. And Troi does the classic talk in the wrong direction of the imaginary friend, so the kid can be like, actually, she's over there. And so Isabella is like, leave them alone. And Isabella is not interested in listening to Troi. And so Troi goes to Ensign Sutter and is like, listen, Dad, maybe make yourself more available to Clara, and I'll take her to a ceramics class. And Isabella's like, why are grown-ups so mean? And they can just, like, go away. And I'm like, wow, Isabella, stop wanting to go to engineering. It's not a place to play. Clara is, like, not allowed there. And Isabella's like, oh my God, Isabella is so manipulative. I kind of love it. She's like, oh, so you don't want to go to engineering where it's really dangerous and we're not allowed to go to play? Seems like you don't really like me very much. And Clara's like, what? Wait, what? And so Isabella goes, let's go to engineering, Clara, just for a little while. No one will know. It'll be our secret. And if they find us, we'll tell them we got lost. And she says this in the most stone cold, voice. It
in a
is
very
terrifying.
threatening manner.
Yeah. Troy's like, hey, Clara, let's do a ceramics class. Just you and me. Isabella can fuck off. She can eat dirt for a bit. And Isabella looks pissed. And then they close up on her terrifying robot red eyes. And
because as we know, red eyes equals evil.
Yes. Okay, so then Data is now like, what the fuck did I write? Change in stuff, but it's fine. Then ship shakes. JK, shields registered an impact, but nothing around. I'm going to assume that makes sense. So the velocity is dropping, but now it's fine. So Geordi did some experiments with the samples and concludes that it must be like a highly cohesive form of plasma, like a strand of energy. It's a segment from a much larger network of strands. So Geordi says, when these things come in contact with our shields, it produces a resonant effect, and that creates the drag coefficient we've been experiencing. Great. And so Clara... Oh, okay, so now in the ceramics class, Clara meets Alexander, and he is making a spiky goblet for Worf. And, which is, I don't know why, but it was, like, weird seeing Alexander in, like, someone else's story.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Especially
you exist outside of Worf?
Especially since he's there so briefly. Like, this is the one time that we have seen Alexander, and he really doesn't have anything to do with the story.
But I do appreciate he seems into doing ceramics, so, like, good for him, I guess.
Yeah, for once he's not sitting there lying.
Yeah. Okay, so, like, the crew does a field generation... whatever, and then they can see all the strands, and it basically looks like a combination of like cobwebs or like the strands of muscle that you would see in like a body, but from the view of Magic School Bus.
Yeah.
And Geordi is like, wow, these many strands could really fuck up the ship, and Picard's like, yep, let's get the fuck out of here. And okay, so now we're like in the room we're in Troy's quarters. She gets hot chocolate and it's like, is Isabella gonna fucking haunt Troi? And so then Isabella knocks over the hot chocolate, and I just was like, what does she think that will accomplish? She knocks over the hot chocolate. What? That doesn't do anything. Troy's just like,
she's just trying to be a dick, I think.
And I was like, this is silly. So, okay, Alexander and Clara are like they're being like friends or whatever, and it's cute. Alexander goes to get more water, and Isabella just fucking knocks over this other clay on a tray, and so it damages his like spiky goblet. And Alexander is like pretty pissed.
Yeah.
Which is like honestly kind of fair. I mean, it's not Clara's fault by any means, but like she's like, it was Isabella's fault. And she's invisible, and Alexander is like, no, what the fuck are you talking about? That's not real. You're a liar. And then he doesn't believe her until he gets nailed in the head by a piece of clay that obviously could not have come from Clara's direction. But that like doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
They're just like, so,
also, sorry, I just want to point out that Alexander's like, that took me 2 weeks. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I know he's a child. But that cup didn't take anyone 2 weeks.
No.
It took only 2 weeks if he worked on it for like 1 minute
Yeah.
a day for 2 weeks or something. Oh, okay. So Clara, okay, she goes to the Arboretum to cry. Here's Isabella. She's so fucking scary. And Isabella's like, we're not even friends anymore. You can fucking die with everyone else. And she's like, wait, what? And Data is like, oh, we're going to clear the nebula in 12 minutes, 4 seconds. And I wrote, this is at 15 minutes and 11 seconds left. And I forgot to keep track. So, whoops. So velocity dropping again. Oh no, now it's back to normal. Troi is picking at chocolate cake and 10 forward. Guinan's like, what's up? And Troy's like, listen, I'm trying to wean Clara away from Isabella, but she's concerned that she's like faking something. What? Oh, she's taking something from her. Okay. Wow. She's taking something from her that's like precious as part of her childhood. And like, you know, if she like, you know, basically gets Isabella out of there, then like she won't be able, she's just taking something away from her childhood that she won't be able to get back, even though it will like technically help her. But Guinan admits that like, oh, Razor Beast's body is gone, but you know, the idea remains, and she still talks to it when she's afraid or gets confused or even a little scared. And then I wrote, what's the difference between being afraid and scared? Because Guinan says both.
Yeah.
Like, is there like a like definition difference? I don't like, I'm not like joking. I'm like, is there actually a difference?
I don't think so.
'Cause I just always assumed it's the same thing. So, so Guinan doesn't think anyone should have to give up an imaginary friend, which that's fair, I guess. So then, Ensign Setter calls Troi into his quarters, and so Clara can tell Troi that Isabella is scaring the shit out of her by telling her everyone's gonna die. Mm-hmm. And Troy's like, listen, Clara, it's fine. So she brings Clara into her room to make sure there's no Isabella, checks in the like under the bed, then like she checks in the closet, turns around, and Isabella fucking laser beams Troi, and she's knocked out. But Troi does see Isabella before she's knocked out. And so then we cut to sick bay, and Troi wakes up, and she's like, fucking saw Isabella. This child is terrifying. And Dr. C's like, oh yeah, energy was pulled right out of Troi. And so Ensign Sutter tells Picard about Isabella's threat that like, oh, she's just gonna fucking kill everyone. Picard lets Worf know, and Worf's like, oh yeah, I saw this kid 2 days ago. Yeah. And everyone's like, wait, what? And Clara comes in and is like, Isabella is got like mean when Clara did like shit without her. And the Ensign Sutter's like, yeah, that's fine. Now you can go back to bed. And like, this kid just had like a traumatic event, and you're gonna send her to bed in her room where Isabella just shot someone with a laser beam? Wow, Dad, you kind of suck. So, meep. Oh yeah, she's like, also death threats have been made, but it's okay, Clara, go back to bed.
Yeah.
So Riker says that the speed of the ship is down 22%, and then they just get like stopped in the strands, and Tinkerbell lights are feeding off the shield powers. So there's like a bunch of them just like slurping the power away, and then there's 8 minutes before Tinkerbell drains all the shields. Clara, Worf, Picard, and Ensign Sutter go back to the Arboretum, and there's a lady in overalls who is in the background of like this scene, and then in like an earlier scene in the Arboretum, and it looks like it's almost, she's like a bystander, and she's just like here for the wildest shit, and she just like stands there. She's just in the background, not part of this plot. She just is, you know, arboretuming it up, and crazy shit happens around her. Okay, so I like honestly expected Isabella to show up and like put a knife to Clara's throat or something. I was like very scared. And Picard's like, come out, bitch, we gotta talk, we know you're here. And then he's like, come talk to us, or can you only communicate by threatening a small child? So then Isabella like appears and Worf and Picard are like visibly surprised to see her, but the dad does not flinch. I'm like, this is your daughter's imaginary friend that's real, and this does not affect you. So Isabella is basically there to determine, so Isabella / Tinkerbell is there to determine whether or not that the Enterprise is a threat to her people, and to examine the purity of their energy sources, i.e. their shields. So what? Like, I understand what this means. This is a very weird way to go about doing this.
Yeah, it really does kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah, and so Isabella's like, listen, you guys all suck. You're all uncaring monsters because you wouldn't let Clara do anything. Mm-hmm. And then I thought there wasn't much left of the episode. So I was like, maybe I just write a few more notes in the margins.
Oh.
And
fooled again.
Listen, I was hoisted and then dropped by my own petard.
Yeah.
And so this is going to get messy because I did a real weird job of border notes this time. So they're like, okay, well, we could give you some energy, without, you guys killing us. But Isabella's like, not killing you. Mm-hmm. What? Okay, I guess that's fine. And Picard's like, we didn't let her. We also didn't let Clara do shit because it's like dangerous. But also, like, you mean what did I write? We didn't let her do what. Oh, she's like, oh, so you're like mad because we didn't let you do what you wanted to do? It's not what Clara wanted to do. It's what you wanted to do. And Picard realizes these are children.
Yeah.
And Isabella was pissed because the crew did not want Clara to be friends with her anymore. I'm like, this is very silly. So Picard's like, as adults, we don't always stop to consider how everything we say and do shapes the impression of young people. But if you're judging us as people by the way we treat our children, and I think there can be no better criterion than you misunderstand how deeply we care for them. What? Oh God, what? When? Maybe this is when. When our children are young, they don't understand what might be dangerous. Our rules are to keep them from harm, real or imaginative. Imagined. I don't know what I wrote. Imagined. And that's part of the continuity of our human species. When Clara grows up, she will make rules for her children to protect them as we protect her. And then Clara's just like, please don't kill us. I'll be your best friend forever.
Yeah.
Just
I'll
please
be
don't kill
friend.
us. Yeah, I'll be your best friend. If you don't kill us, I'll be your best friend. So then Isabella, I guess, takes this to heart to a degree, and all the Tinkerbells fly away, and like the strands kind of clear off so they can go. And then Geordi directs the energy beam onto the nebula on Picard's orders, so like the Tinkerbells can like get energy. And so then Isabella does follow up with Clara, and she's like, I'm sorry for being such a dick, Clara. Bye.
Yeah.
I was like, Clara needs all the therapy. Like, she was already seeing Troi, but now she needs to see Troi more.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was
An episode.
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah, it was perfectly fine.
It's very strange that this is an episode of Star Trek, and numerous people within the production have actually stated that. They're like, I don't understand why this needed to be a Star Trek episode.
Yeah.
The episode is fine, but it would have belonged just as well on any other, like, kind of supernatural-ish show that was going on in the early 1990s.
Yeah.
You mean like Supernatural?
That wasn't going on in the
Well, I mean, it
early
was going on in the
1990s.
90s. I know. It started in like 2005 or 6, something like that.
Creepy.
Listen, I was a fan when I was a youth.
I'm very sorry. Anyway, so This episode, I'm very distracted while watching it because the guy who's playing, they're playing her father. I did not catch his name off the top of my head. I know you mentioned it once or twice, but I've since
Ensign
forgotten.
Sutter. We don't know. They didn't. I don't think they mentioned his first name, but he's Ensign Sutter.
Okay, well, Ensign Sutter is played by a guy also named Jeff. Yeah, Jeff Allen. And I do not associate Jeff Allen with this episode at all. I associate him with a video game that I used to play that is also a Star Trek video game. It's a full motion video game in which you have to basically live out an episode of Star Trek as one of the main characters, with guest starring John Delancey as Q, being extremely annoying and comedic. The game is not particularly great. It's kind of like an FMV / point and click adventure game, and Jeff Allen ends up playing your quote unquote father in it, who's also a Starfleet officer, and you have been brought back in time by Q to avenge your father's death from the Borg, and it's it's just very or prevent your father's death from the Borg rather, and I find the whole thing very entertaining, but like not good. I just kind of have a lot of nostalgia for it. And the funny thing about it is you can legit sit there and like watch the entire game as like an episode out on YouTube, which is just very amusing to me because like why bother playing it at that point? And yeah, so that's it. I associate the episode with something completely different just because this actor is in your face in that episode all the time.
It's funny, like when you were describing it, I was like, I'm sorry, do you play as Clara in this game?
No, not at all. Actually, the game is a little bit confusing because they were doing it on, somewhat of a budget, obviously, because it was a video game in the 1990s and they did not have, $100 million budgets. So they were reusing sets and whatnot that were already on Star Trek and reusing costumes and whatnot. So the game takes place during the Battle of Wolf 359, and it's using all of this stuff from Voyager that is clearly much later than when that happened. And you just kind of accept it. You just ignore it.
Did this game come out after, like, TNG?
Yes, a game came out in 90... I want to say like 97 or something like that. So like very early in computer video games that made use of CD-ROM technology, and especially in like FMV games, which are not particularly common anymore, but they were a big thing when people realized that you could play video off of a CD. So yeah, it's weird because it's not shot on film. It was shot on video, and you can tell because there's so much terrible interlacing in the already badly compressed video, because they didn't know how to compress video back then. And yeah, it's very, very surreal and strange because it technically has the production value of like a proper Star Trek episode, and the writing and everything to go with it, but it almost feels like a fan fiction. Because it's not particularly good. And that's it. That's my story.
I think it's nice that they reuse like actors within the Star Trek universe for
stuff.
Yeah, like
quite
this
a bit.
Guy, and then what's his face from the Wesley episode?
Yep. Jeff Allen actually shows up again in a Voyager episode as a very interesting character. That's a decent Voyager episode. It could have been a lot better, but it leaves a bit of a mark. But yeah, you'll see more of that. In fact, there's an actor in DS9 that I hope we get to at some point. His name is Jeffrey Combs, and he has a kind of a prolific position in Star Trek for playing so many different characters and being reused so many separate times. In the finale of DS9, he's actually playing 2 separate characters in the same episode.
Oh, wild.
Yeah. So, good shit. Good shit.
Okay, so Imaginary friends.
Yes.
How does it work?
I have no idea. When I was a kid, I pretended to have an imaginary friend.
Oh.
Because I just thought you were supposed to have one. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll pretend to have one.
Well, so did you know a lot of people with imaginary friends then? Because I don't remember knowing anybody with an imaginary friend.
No, it was like, I think it was like because I seen it in like movies and TV and stuff. But I didn't know anyone myself that had imaginary friends.
It's kind of a stereotype of a thing that kids do that's very much used in media when they're doing stories about children, partially because they don't really know how to write children very often, but also partially because it's just become a trope. I do not think it is nearly as common as it is portrayed in media.
Yeah.
I just, like, I don't understand how it works. Because, like, Clara says she knows that Isabella isn't real. And yet, she's like, Troi, why aren't you acknowledging Isabella?
Look, you're asking for consistency in writing children in which they don't understand children. So you're expecting too much from these writers.
But, like, in general, like, how does it work? Do people, like, actually picture someone, like, with them? Or do people talk to imaginary friends just on their own? Man, I am very curious
I have
about,
no idea.
like, this.
I also don't know. Like, it's like I said, you're asking for logical consistency, and your thought process on it is stemming from a writer who did not insert logical consistency in it. But also, children are not logically consistent either. So you got a bit of a problem there in that you're trying to understand something that it is at its base just bad writing, therefore may not be accurate to begin with. In terms of like the question that you're asking, but if it is accurate, it is not supposed to be logically consistent either.
That's fair.
Like the other thing
Listen,
is,
if you've had an imaginary friend, give us a call.
if you had an imaginary friend, call the Ghostbusters first, because the thing about the way that children are portrayed in media is that they're often portrayed by people who don't really seem to understand how kids work very well. But this episode does get one thing right, in that children are fiercely imaginative for the most part. Not all of them, obviously, but the majority of them are. And there isn't really that much logic in imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to bring up is that I feel like towards the end there, like before they find out Isabella's real, like just before, there is not enough concern paid to Clara saying, my imaginary friend is telling me that they're going to kill people.
That's like the biggest red flag right there.
Yeah.
Her dad's like, it's okay, Clara, go back to bed.
Yeah. Like it's fine. Like here's the thing. It's like, that's really fucking concerning. Like, regardless of whether Isabella is real or not. If your imaginary friend, like, is, like, telling you harmful things, like, that's really concerning. Like, that is an indication of a problem. That because you're essentially telling yourself, like, really weird shit. Like,
yeah. It's actually kind of weird, though, because, like, in this, Troi verifies that she saw Isabella, and still, like, they're like, it's okay, Clara, don't worry about this death threat. It's fine.
no, that's before Troi sees Isabella.
No, like, this is after. So Troi wakes up, and then her dad's like, Clara, go back to bed. After they're like, because Clara tells Troi, like, she's threatening to kill her.
Yeah.
And then her dad's like, it's okay, Clara, go back to bed.
Yeah.
We've got, like, Troy's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm like, what?
They seem to leave this girl alone a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, does Clara not have like school
no, it's
or
the
some
summertime.
shit?
Yeah. Like,
What? Yes, summertime in space. And a beautiful time of year.
summertime in space. That sounds like either like a really weird indie folk band or like a summertime in space or like a really fucking weird like sci-fi romance novel.
Listen, if anyone uses that, you owe me royalties. That would be very funny if somebody does use that.
Yeah.
Or we make a t-shirt that says summertime in space. And it's just planets wearing sunglasses.
That would be really cute, actually.
Yeah. The solar system. They're having a nice beach day.
I love the sun on the beach on a sunny day. And then it's like,
It's
what's
sun
the other
inception.
sun? Yeah. If that's the sun, what's sunning the beach?
Oh my god, no, wait. It's the planets hanging out on the beach, and up in the sky is the sun wearing sunglasses,
Nice.
looking down at them, being like, you're welcome
Yeah.
for this beach day. But I'm also here to, like, hang out with you guys.
Yeah.
That's a t-shirt.
Yeah. Thanks for coming over, guys.
Yeah, the sun is hosting.
Yeah. I thought both the child actresses in this episode were pretty good.
Yeah. Clara
Like-
was good. Isabella was amazing. She
Yeah,
was so
like-
fucking scary.
So I actually had a criticism about Isabella because I really enjoyed her in the episode, but I also got the feeling that her portrayal was like a one-note kind of thing. That like,
You mean the child?
yeah, well, what? No, the impression that I got was that her portrayal is her acting. Like, they picked her because she acts that wooden to begin with. And, like, I couldn't tell whether it was not good acting or very good acting. And I guess that's probably a testament to it. That it could have gone either way. Because it is kind of hammed up a bit. And that's fine. I mean, it's TNG. Lots of TNG is hammed up. It was nice to finally see Troi portrayed as, like, an actual psychologist doing her job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the thing with this episode for me is like, okay, yes, I enjoyed it. It was fine. But it honestly doesn't make sense because like, why would she take the form of Isabella? Like, if they're there to assess whether or not to kill them because they're like gonna take their energy, so they send a representative to turn into an invisible friend of a child or imaginary friend of a child. It's like, this is some real loosey-goosey logic here from the writers because this doesn't make sense.
I don't know, man. I can't give you logic here.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm not asking for an explanation. It just, man, this was a reach.
So now, let's get into favorite moments and lines.
Clara hanging out with Alexander was nice, I guess. It's not my favorite part, but it was like kind of nice to see Alexander like not. I mean, he was still a dick, but like, listen, he's a child. He doesn't understand, but like, I don't know. It was just kind of like jarring, but also kind of nice to see Alexander in like another role, if that makes sense. That it wasn't just always like,
Yeah.
it's like a reminder that Alexander does not just exist whenever it's convenient to like for him to pop up in Worf's story. Like, he's still a person like
Yeah.
doing shit. And I hope one day he does finish his spiky goblet for Worf.
Yeah. That'd be nice. It was also nice to hear that Worf took him to the zoo on this
Yeah.
whatever planet. Yeah.
Oh, I find it really interesting that Geordi's parents were both in Starfleet and moved around a lot, but he had a good time, I guess. So,
Yeah, this is the first mention
Yeah.
of Geordi's parents. You will hear about them again at some
oh,
point.
good.
I won't tell you any more than that. So my favorite part, besides learning the excellent recipe for grape juice,
Green omelet? Oh, sorry, purple omelets.
purple omelets, yes,
Yeah.
is Data preferring to name the nebula FGC-47.
Yeah. But what, like, Data, because it's Data, I'm gonna say unintentionally, but he, like, unintentionally made a joke. Because, like, Sutter's like, how about Sutter's Clouds? And then Geordi's like, how about, like, LaForge Nebula? And then Data's like, given the options, I prefer, like, FG-48, whatever it was.
FGC-47.
FGC-47.
How can you forget such a majestic name?
I know, it's so memorable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked Clara's outfit. I genuinely did. I thought her little green dress thing was very
that was cute.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's nothing that, like, really sticks out to me in terms of, like a line or a moment or anything like that. So yeah, I pretty much agree with the things you two have also said. Oh yeah. So in that case, let's move on to predictions for the next episode. So the episode coming up is called I, Borg.
Oh, boy.
So yeah, so it's like I, Robot, but I, Borg. And
Cool.
your tidbit for this episode is that the Enterprise captures a lone Borg. And now they have to figure out what to do with it.
Ooh, okay. They are okay. First things first. They're gonna try to like discuss about humane ways to interrogate the Borg.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, I can picture them. They're in like the conference room, and they are like, "Well, how do we get this information out of the Borg?" And Worf's like, "Violence." And there's like any means necessary. And yeah, okay. So I think that they want to get information from the Borg. But I think it's also very traumatizing for Picard. So maybe I feel like Picard just like sits quietly through all of it. And it's just like, and maybe he like kind of like low-key watches from like a window when he sees the Borg. But I think he's really freaked out, and like maybe he has some like PTSD. Well, he's got PTSD. There's no doubt there. But it's like kind of triggering.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe there's like something, maybe the Borg did some shit and like this person was supposed to do something else, but they got separated, like, or maybe they had like one more thing that they had to do. So they were like, or because they're all like one thing, maybe there's something wrong with this Borg, and they were just like, loose ends, goodbye. Like they're not helpful anymore. So maybe they just sort of like let them go because they aren't connected to the group anymore. And then so the Enterprise is like, well, we have this opportunity. Let's try to figure out if they know what like the Borg is up to now.
Mm.
So then they're like, okay, what do we do? What's our technique of figuring out this information? And everyone comes up with some wild ideas.
And there's just like a big ethical dilemma.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Well, if you'd like to see if Dory's correct, watch along with us and join us for the next episode of Fully Functional, a TNG podcast.
Goodbye.